Hi guys, and welcome to Gas City Gaming's set review for Amonkhet. In this video we'll be looking at all the black cards. We're going to be looking at the cards in a limited context, so for your drafts, for your pre-releases, sealed decks, that kind of thing. If I think a card's good enough to potentially see standard play, I will mention it, but not for the most part. Let's have a look at some of the black cards, but I'm going to mention first that I'm not a Grand Prix top 8 competitor, I'm not a pro or anything crazy like that. I've just been around the game for a few years now, enjoy the cards, and like to share my opinions on them. We're also here to love what you guys think as well in the comments down below. So let's get going. First card is Archfiend of Ifnir. Is 3 generic mana and 2 black for a rare. It's a creature that's a demon. It's a 5/4 and it has flying for 5 mana. This is pretty good. Plus, whenever you cycle or discard another card, put a -1/-1 counter on each creature your opponents control. And that cycles itself for 2 mana. This is one of the bottom rares. This is, if I open this, I really want to play black. So the fact, whenever you cycle or discard a card, each creature your opponents control, just your opponent's control, each creature gets a -1/-1 counter. So permanently gets -1/-1. If they have Oketra out, and they made a bunch of 1/1 guys, they're all dead. They play a bunch of 2/3s, 3/4s. They're 1/2s and 2/3s now. Plus you have a 5/4. There's a really big theme you'll see in black for -1/-1 counters, and it can really have some payoffs. If the -1/-1 counters are good enough to see standard play, this will be one of the cards that makes it into that deck for sure. Archfiend of Ifnir, play it and you will have a lot of fun. Baleful Ummet is 2 generic mana and a black for an uncommon. It is a creature, crocodile demon. It's a 4/3. You're thinking, holy cow, 4/3 with lifelink for 3. Wait for it. It has lifelink, like I said, but when it enters the battlefield, put a -1/-1 counter on target creature you control. So keep in mind, that does not have to go on Baleful Ummet. That can go on another creature you control. Say if you had a little mana dork or a 1/3, you can put it on that, make it a 0/2. It can still block 1/1s, and you have a 4/3 lifelink for 3, which is pretty good. In green and black, that's kind of the theme, is you'll have a big creature, but it'll enter and it'll be a little smaller. But there are ways to manipulate those counters, as you'll see. Baleful Ummet, I will play it all the time. I will always hope to have it enter as a 4/3 and put the counters on something else. There are payoff cards you can put those counters on as well, so you can draft a real good, black-green, or even get in your pre-release or sealed decks a really good black-green -1/-1 counter deck for sure. Blighted Bat. 2 generic mana and a black for a creature. It's a zombie bat. It's common. It has 2/1 and flying. You can pay 1 generic mana to give Blighted Bat haste until end of turn. So for 4 mana, it's a flyer with haste. To me, this is more just, you're going to play this to maybe get in against some green-blue decks. But more than likely, this is just going to block their flyers to me. Might play it as a 1-of, but I'm not going to rely on it super heavily, so... Like, it could finish off, like, late game if they don't have any flyers. You could drop this, give it haste 2/2/2 over a few turns, but I'm still not valuing it super highly. Bone Picker is 3 generic mana and a black for a creature. It's an uncommon, it's a bird. Bone Picker costs 3 generic mana less, so it puts its cost down to only a single black to cast if a creature died this turn. It has flying and death touch. So, if it's turn 4, we can play our Baleful Ummet, put a -1/-1 counter on one of our creatures. It dies. Oh no. And then play Bone Picker for 1 mana. So on turn 4, we've played a 3/2 with flying and death touch, and a 4/3 with lifelink for 4 mana. That's pretty good. That's pretty good, guys. You can talk about Magical Christmas Land, but I think that's potential. They're both uncommons, so this kind of thing could be a thing. I want to do it. I want to do it. Kind of want to do it. Bantu the Glorified. We're hitting our Black God early. Generic mana, 2 generic mana and a black for a legendary creature, God. It's a mythic. It has Menace, indestructible. It's a 4/6. Bantu the Glorified can't attack or block unless a creature died under your control this turn. So like we said with the other gods, if you're coming from the other videos, or if you're new, all the gods have some kind of clause that has to be fulfilled in order for them to get, attack or block. So far, we've looked at the blue god and the white god, and those are kind of constant effects that can just always be an occurrence. Bantu, so far, is our one that has to be, is the only one, actually, that has to have its trigger fulfilled every turn. So if you want to block with it, a creature has to die on your opponent's turn. If you want to attack with it, a creature has to die on your turn. So because of that, I would say it is the hardest god to turn on because of that. But if you can, it just gets real good. It's real good. It has a generic mana, so like all the other gods, they can fulfill their own abilities. It has a generic mana and a black ability. Sacrifice another creature and scry 1. Also, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. So there's kind of a if you draft a lot of embalm creatures, I see those guys getting along really well. Or if there's, like, I've always been a fan of playing the aristocrat style deck, which this guy seems like he gets along pretty good with, because for 3 mana you get a 4/6 Menace indestructible. Then you just sack something and it can swing or block. So it seems pretty good for that. And like anything else, these guys, his ability can be activated at instant speed, so you can do it on your opponent's turn if you have to set off and block with him, right? So I do like Bantu. Again, if you're in black, all the gods are good. They're mythics. They're big splashy mythics, right? They're made to be played. They're going to see played in limited. Standard, if there's a good enough aristocrats deck, could. Might be able to go in that zombie deck we want to build, that black-white zombie / tokens deck we want to build, but it seems a little iffy just because something has to die every turn and you don't always want to do that. Cartouche of Ambition. The black cartouche. There's 2 generic mana and a black for a common enchantment aura, cartouche. That's just fun to say. You're going to enjoy saying cartouche. Enchant creature you control. When Cartouche of Ambition enters the battlefield, you may put a -1/-1 counter on target creature. Yours, theirs, doesn't matter. Enchant creature gets +1/+1 and has lifelink. So you'll shrink something of theirs, pump something of yours, swing and gain life. Possibly kill the thing of theirs you shrunk. Possibly even kill it with the -1/-1 counter, because if you're playing black, this probably isn't your first -1/-1 counter, just saying. So, like I said, all the cartouches, they vary in quality, but they're all playable in their colors, including Cartouche of Ambition. Cruel Reality is 5 generic mana and 2 black for a enchantment. It's an aura curse. Love seeing the curses coming back. It's a mythic. It has enchant player. Enchant your opponent, don't enchant yourself. At the beginning of enchanted player's upkeep, that player sacrifices a creature or planeswalker. If the player can't, he or she loses 5 life. So your board's bogged down, you got a bunch of stuff, and nobody wants to attack, or they're attacking with a little thing once in a while, doing 1 or 2 damage back and forth, trading, whatever. You drop Cruel Reality, game's going to end in a few turns, right? Because they either got to keep pumping out creatures, or they're going to take 5. They're going to either start pumping out creatures, or they're going to take 5 when they're done sacking creatures, plus then all your stuff gets to start to swing through. So, Cruel Reality, I'm not often happy taking curve toppers that aren't creatures. I'm okay with this. Cursed Minotaur. 2 generic mana and a black for a 3/2 with Menace. So we've had this creature in different varieties for a few sets now. This is a zombie. There's obviously a big zombie theme running through Amonkhet. It's not just a 3/2 with Menace. It has a lot of possible synergies with a lot of other cards. So because of that, I'm more likely to play a Cursed Minotaur than I have been in the past when it's been other creatures. Dispossessed is 2 generic mana and a black for a rare sorcery. It says choose an artifact card name. Search target opponent's graveyard, hand, library for any number of cards with the chosen name and exile them. Then that player shuffles his or her library. So we had another card in white that said name a card and your opponent can't cast that. This is a similar effect, so I don't want this in my main deck. Not at all. It's going to be maybe a sideboard card that might come in if my opponent has a really powerful artifact. But I have to see the artifact first. I don't know what it is. Again, unless you're sitting beside the guy while he's building his deck, and you're like, oh my goodness, you got that artifact, that's so good. You're not going to play your Dispossess, because you don't know anything in your opponent's deck. You don't even know what colors they're playing until they start playing lands and spells and stuff. So Dispossess for me, even then, you could guess at a uncommon enchantment and completely whiff, right? Or an uncommon artifact and completely whiff. So I'm not going to play this main deck because of that. And even then, it's a situational sideboard card. Duma Center is a generic mana and a black for a common human. Plain old human. It's a 1/1. When Duma Center dies, create a 2/2 black zombie creature token. Remember our old buddy Doom Traveler? Create a 1/1 spirit. This is his new buddy. So this is the guy that I want to put those -1/-1 counters on. Thing is, we'll see some creatures later that put multiple -1 counters on when they enter, either on themselves or another creature. You can still put them on, like if they say put 2 -1/-1 counters on, you can put them on Duma Center. He'll still just die, but he'll die to 1 counter, yes, but you don't have to then distribute the other counter to something else. You can say, I'm going to put both on Duma Center. Okay, he dies. That's it, you're done. And even then, you get a 2/2 zombie creature that enters untapped. Okay. So here's my magical Christmas land for me. I play this guy turn 2. Turn 3, maybe kill something with a removal spell. Turn 4, we play the Ummet. He enters, kills this guy with his -1/-1 counter. So we have a 4/3 lifelink, 2/2 zombie. Then we play our bat, all on turn 4. So much fun. So much fun. Dread Wanderer is a black mana for a rare creature. He's a zombie jackal. Jackal? Is it a jackal? Jackal. It's a jackal. It's a 2/1. If you watch Family Guy, you'll get that reference. It's a 2/1. Dread Wanderer enters battlefield tapped. You can pay 2 generic and a black. Return Dread Wanderer from your graveyard to the battlefield. Activate this ability only anytime you can cast a sorcery, and only if you have 1 or fewer cards in hand. So a few cards in Amonkhet that care about you being heck bent, aka having 1 or fewer cards in hand. This is one of them. This is something that, again, you can put your -1/-1 counters on this, and just keep bringing them back, right? So it's not only good for that, it's good for that. It's a zombie, so it's going to run synergy with your other zombies. I would play this guy if I'm playing black for sure. And if worst comes to worse, it is your, end of the game. It's your thing that you can just keep bringing back. You keep bringing it back, and it keeps coming back, and it keeps being a blocker and a blocker and a blocker. So I enjoy him. Dune Beetle is a generic mana and a black for a common creature. He's an insect. Is a 1/4. This is kind of our black version of Ancient Crab. Blue usually gets the slightly bigger booty creatures because it's a little more dirtily than black usually is. So this, for our black card, we have to pay 1 mana less, and we lose, what was it, 1 toughness? I think it was a 1/5 for Ancient Crab, right? So we lose 1 toughness, which I'm fine with. Turn 2, I'm happy playing my 1/4 if it's going to block for a while. Especially like we're playing our blue-black Dirtle deck, your Dune Beetle and your Ancient Crab combo. All the girdles. Faith of the Devoted. 2 generic mana and a black for an uncommon enchantment. Whenever you cycle or discard a card, you may pay 1. If you do, each opponent loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. So again, obviously you don't want to play this in your deck if you're not running any or like only 1 or 2 cycling cards, because if you do, it does nothing. If you're playing a lot of cycling cards, like you're playing your blue-black deck and you didn't get your Drake creating enchantment, but you got this, it's just as good to me. It's a 4 life swing every time you cycle a card for 1 extra mana. So you cycle a card for your blue, so you cycle a card for a, say it's one of the 1-cost blue cycling cards, and a generic. You gain 2 life, your opponent loses 2 life, and you draw a card for 2 mana at instant speed. I'm having a good time with that. I love my drain and gain effects. Festering Mummy. Mummy. This is black mana for a common creature zombie. It's a 1/1, and when Festering Mummy dies, you may put a 1/1 counter on target creature. We've had this kind of effect before. Festering Goblin, I think we had before, was its name. And, we've had the red cards that do this kind of thing when it dies, does a damage to something. It's always been good. I would gladly play a couple of these. It's kind of like an embalmed creature in that it has effect when it's there, it'll block, and then it also has one when it's gone. This one, though, has its -1/-1 counter. They can either, so this can trade with an X2, keep that in mind for that, because you'll block, it'll do 1 damage, and then you can put the -1/-1 counter on it to make its toughness 0, right? So this can trade with X2s, remember that, or it can also just shrink something else, if you want to shrink something else. One kind of cool trick is if you block something with First Strike with this, it can then put its -1/-1 counter on something else that's involved in combat, which hasn't done damage yet because First Strike, and you can do little shenanigans with that with the counter and play around and stuff like that. So it's kind of neat, but like I said, I'd be more than happy playing a couple of Festering Mummies in my limited deck. Final reward is our removal for black. We got Daring Demolition in Kaladesh for 4 mana. This time we're getting at instant speed for 5 to kill anything. We'll go for final reward. It's 4 generic mana and a black. It's common. It's an instant. Exile target creature. It's gone. You can't even embalm it. It's just gone. Right? I like the flavor text on this one. Those who earn a glorious death are given the highest honor. They are carried on funeral barges through the gate to the afterlife. So they aren't embalmed. They aren't embalmed in mummies and serving anything. They're just going right to the afterlife. Exiled, right? They're going right away. So final reward, this is what we're paying in Amonkhet to kill something, right? I will pay this. I'll pay a couple of these to just get rid of something. Get rid of a god. Get rid of any creature I want. I'll pay 5 mana to do that. Thank you very much. Gravedigger. Monster trucks. Gravedigger. 3 generic mana and a black for a 2/2. It's an uncommon creature zombie. When Gravedigger enters the battlefield, okay, I'll stop. Enters the battlefield, you may return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. If you get more than one of these, if you can draft more than one of these, they do this really cool loop thing that you should try. It's great. You're gonna have a good time. But you get a 2/2 for 4 mana, and you get, say, your big ol' thing back. So you can play this. It's good early. It gets a little creature back. If you're in desperation mode, you really need a block. It gets your creature back for you. Late game, it's really good. Say your big bomb died or got countered by a blue deck. Return it to your hand. You can play it again, right? Gravedigger's always been good. I'm more than happy to play one, especially if you can get that loop going. It's tons of fun. Grimstrider. 3 generic mana and a black for a uncommon creature. He's a horror. He's a 6/6. Grimstrider gets -1/-1 for each card in your hand. So like we said, if you're playing red-black, this is your jam right here. Red-black wants to get rid of your cards. Aggro, discard your cards, cycle your cards, play your cards, get rid of them. That's what this guy loves. So this is, like we said, a lot of things carry about being heck bent, having 1 or less cards in your hand in that color combo. So this guy's gonna be a 4/4, 5/5, 6/6 most of the time for 4 mana, which is pretty good. If you're playing your blue-black girdle deck, maybe stay away from this guy, because that one wants to have a few more cards in your hand. That usually wants to have 3-ish cards in your hand. So it's gonna be a 4/4 or a 3/3, not as good. But in the right kind of deck, Grimstrider is going to be some pretty good value. There we go. Horror of the Broken Lands is 4 generic and a black for a common creature horror. It's a 4/4. It says whenever you cycle or discard another card, Horror of the Broken Lands gets +2/+1 until end of turn and has cycling itself for a single black mana. So like I said, you can cycle, you can draw a card and do 2 and gain 2, and you can have some that way. Or just, I would play this guy on its own because it just, again, builds off your cycling. So your blue-black cycling deck or your blue-red cycling deck, this guy can get pretty big pretty fast and be a good-sized threat. And 4/4 in limited is also not a bad creature side just on its own, too. And worst comes to worst, you get a draw card. That's going to be my motto for this set. Worst comes to worst, you get a draw card. Lay Bare the Heart is generic and a black for a sorcery. It's an uncommon. It says target opponent reveals his or her hand. You choose a non-legendary, non-land card from it. That player discards that card. I believe in this set there are 11 legendary creatures. So, what is it? I think there's 190 some cards in this set. So this gets most of them. Whether it's a creature, whether it's a sorcery, enchantment, instant, no matter the rarity, no matter the mana cost, this gets rid of it. I'm not a big fan of playing discard spells in limited, but I'd put one of these in there, especially if I know they have something big, which most people are going to have a bomb or two, right? Especially in your draft, because you get to pick whatever you want. Or in sealed, you open 6 rares plus your promo. You have 7 rares. You're going to be playing a couple of them at least. I'm happy playing a Lay Bare the Heart for sure. Ooh, that goodness. Liliana, Death's Majesty. It's 3 generic and 2 black for a Planeswalker. Liliana is a mythic, comes in at 5 loyalty, and has 3 abilities. As most do. Not all, most. It's her +1, not his, her +1. Says create a 2/2 black zombie creature token, and put the top 2 cards of your library into your graveyard. I got a mill. Wait for it. You get a 2/2. So she comes in, protects herself. Hopefully you have something else on the board too, but protects herself on an empty board, which is always important. Has -3, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. See what they did there? That creature is a black zombie in addition to its other colors and types. So with her +1, you get to fuel her -3, right? You flip over a couple cards. One's a creature, -3. If it's your big bomb, you flipped over. Oh, in addition to Liliana, if it's a really good creature, you can put it onto the battlefield as well. Her -7, so remember, she comes in at 5. If you +1 her, she goes to 6. +1 again goes to 7. Then you can alter her 3rd turn in, which is usually pretty good, because she keeps making blockers for herself. Whether she's when she's +1ing, she keeps making her blockers. Her -7 says destroy all non-zombie creatures. So even if she dies, the zombies she's created are left behind. Now, granted, her ult doesn't, like, if she's at 7 and you -7 her to kill herself and ult, all your zombies stick around. So your black-white zombie decks, love Lily. Even your black X zombie decks, your zombie decks period, love Lily. Destroy all non-zombie creatures. This is going to love seeing Commander play, right? Board wipe for non-zombies. Seems pretty good. Standard, if that zombie deck becomes a thing, of course this is going to see play. Would love to. If, hopefully there's some bands that happen to make that happen because I'm a big black-white fan. So, but Lily, obviously if I'm talking about it in constructed formats, play Planeswalkers and Limited. Just do it. You're going to have fun. I'm going to have fun if I'm playing mine. I'm not going to have fun if you're playing yours and I'm not playing mine. So play yours and I'll play mine and we'll have fun. Liliana's Mastery is 3 generic mana and 2 black for a rare enchantment. It says zombies you control get +1/+1, and when Liliana's Mastery enters the battlefield, create 2 2/2 black zombie creature tokens. Seems good. So it basically says create 2 3/3 black zombie creature tokens, unless somebody kills the enchantment, right? Because it immediately gives those 2/2 zombies +1/+1. So again, your black-white deck is going to love you for playing this and all of your zombie cards. Because not only does it create its own bodies, because some enchantments, like if this just said zombies you control get +1/+1, is not good because it doesn't do anything the turn it comes on. But because it creates you 2 creatures for 5 mana with 6 power across 2 creatures, is pretty good. Lord of the Accursed. It says it right in the name. It's a lord. It's a zombie. It's 2 generic mana and a black. For a uncommon creature is a zombie. It's a 2/3. It says other zombies you control get +1/+1. So you gotta. It's uncommon, so you can even get a hold of a couple of these in a draft. It says a generic and a black. Tap. All zombies gain Menace until end of turn. So if you've gone wide, or you have, but your creatures are about equal, maybe you got 1 or 2 advantage, but you don't feel confident swinging in yet, this lets you. This pumps, and on your next turn, unless they kill it, you're probably going to kill them, right? Awesome in your zombie decks. Obviously, the more you get, the better they are. So I would take all I could of this guy, especially for your zombie decks, for sure, for sure. Miasmic Mummy is a generic black for a creature, zombie, jackal. It's a jackal. It's a jackal. It's common, 2/2. Watch that Family Guy episode, okay, guys? It's common, it's a 2/2. When Miasmic Mummy enters the battlefield, each player discards a card. It's okay. So you can discard something from your hand with Embalm. Maybe they will as well, is the thing. So if I'm reaching for zombies, I'm okay playing this, but I'd rather do other things. Nest of Scarabs, for example, is something I would rather do in black. It's 2 generic mana and a black for an uncommon enchantment. Whenever you put 1 or more -1/-1 counters on a creature, create that many 1/1 black insect creature tokens. So, for example, Archfiend of Ifnir. Cycle a card, put 1 -1/- counters on each creatures your opponent control. They have 4 creatures. You cycled a card. So you drew a card, say for 2 mana even. You drew a card. You put -1/-1 counters on all the creatures your opponents control. And you got that many 1/1s. That's good. That's real good. Do that. Nest of Scarabs, if you have a decent amount of -1/-1 counter things in your deck to do, is even like Baleful Ummet. When it enters, put a -1/-1 counter on creature you control. So you put a -1/-1 counter on something and you get a 1/1. That still happens. So I like Nest of Scarabs, as long as you've got enough -1 counters to fuel it, obviously. But Painful Lessons, 2 generic mana and a black for a common sorcery. Target player draws 2 cards and loses 2 life. This is your card draw in black. If you don't have a ton of cycling, I'd play a copy of this. I've played it before. I will continue to. Pitiless Vizier. It's 3 generic mana and a black for a common Minotaur Cleric creature. He's a 4/2, and it says whenever you cycle or discard a card, Pitiless Vizier gains indestructible until end of turn. So again, if you're kind of in your blue-black, this is one of your more aggressive cards. So if I have like this is common. If I have Archfiend of Ifnir, I'm definitely playing this guy because then I get to swing in with impunity with my 4/2. I'll put a -1/- counter on their X5. They block with it. If they go on a block with it, it's going to die. So I'm happy doing that. Again, if you have the fuel to do it. If you don't have cycling cards, don't play this guy. There are better things to do with 4 mana than play a 4/2. Plague Belcher. 2 generic mana and a black for a creature, zombie beast. Love that art on this. As a rare, it has a 5/4 with Menace. Don't worry, it's not just that broke. It's still pretty broke. It enters the battlefield. You put 2 -1/-1 counters on target creature you control. Whenever another zombie you control dies, each opponent loses 1 life. There are a lot of zombies in black. If you haven't caught on to that yet, there are a lot of zombies in black. This could kill 1 and drain your opponent for 1. That's fine. Oh, and this if you guys haven't been seeing these synergies already, like, okay, you put -1/-1 on counters on something, you know, you get some 1/1s, your zombies all gain a aristocrat type effect. It's a 5/4 on turn 3 with Menace when your opponent might only have one creature, so this guy could very easily hit. Like, just really, I wanna get good black cards on my pre-release. I'm gonna do pre-releases until I get really good black cards. Yeah, Plague Belcher, just really, really good card. If the zombie deck becomes a thing in standard, this is going to be in there because of its aristocrat type effect, because each opponent loses 1 life type effect. Ruthless Sniper is not generic. It's a black mana for an uncommon human archer. When you cycle or discard a card, you may pay 1. If you do, put a -1/-1 counter on target creature. For 1/2. 1/2 for 1 with that ability on it. I'm happy for that in my cycling deck for sure. I can pay a single black and a generic to discard a card, draw a card, and put a -1/-1 counter on something. That's the way you got to think of it to me. So I like that. Scarab Feast is a black mana for a common instant. It says exile up to 3 target cards from a single graveyard, and it cycles for a single black. So if you're playing against a deck with a lot of embalm creatures, seems good, because you can only embalm as a sorcery, so you can do this instantly. You can cycle it if you're not, so I would play one of these main. If you're playing against a deck with a lot of embalm, it's just a common, so I might bring in a second if you got more than one, but I would main one, because it replaces itself if nothing else, and just exiles stuff with embalm, which a lot of stuff has, right? Shadow of the Grave is generic mana and a black for a rare instant. Return to your hand all cards in your graveyard that you cycled or discarded this turn. To me, they made this card a little more for constructed because they really want the cycling deck or the discard deck to be a thing. I think there's a turn 3 or 4 standard combo kill out there that involves this. You discard all your cards from Noose Constrictor. Different cards including Noose Constrictor, get bonuses because you discarded cards. You swing in with them and you do a bunch of damage. But you discard them, use this to get them back, discard them again, that kind of thing. If you have enough cycling cards or discard outlets in your limited deck, I would play one of these if I get it as well. But again, this is one of those things, just because it's so narrow, because it's so specific, if I'm not playing a lot of cycling cards, I'm going to be disappointed that this is my rare. Soul Stinger, I like this card. It's 3 generic mana and a black for a common Scorpion Demon. When Soul Stinger enters the battlefield, put 2 -1/-1 counter on target creature you control, so you can put it on something else. Or you can put it on Soul Stinger because its second half says, when Soul Stinger dies, you may put a -1/-1 counter on target creature for each -1/-1 counter on Soul Stinger. So, for example, if you get a couple of these guys, you can, okay, I'm going to play my first one, I'm going to put the -1/-1 counters on it. I'm going to play my second one, put the -1/-1 counters on that first one again. So it's a 0/1, but come at me, bro, because I'm going to block with a 0/1 and put 4 -1/-1 counters on something of yours. So, and you have a 4/5 for 4 also, besides that. So, I like Soul Stinger. Could be good, like I just demonstrated. I think it could be good in multiple as well. In a limited deck, not so much constructed, but in a limited deck, for sure, I would play a couple of Soul Stingers if I get them. Splendid Agony, 2 generic and a black for a common instant. It says distribute 2 -1/-1 counters among 1 or 2 target creatures. So this is going to be your kind of early black removal rather than like Deadweight, where it's an enchantment that give -2/-2, or I forget the art, but it's a black card that kind of do 3 damage, gain 3 life. It's not that one. This is kind of our area for that in this set. They really want to hammer home the minus counter thing. Because the nice thing, it is permanent, so it can screw up. It's instant, so it can screw up combat math. It's just you can make their big thing less of a big thing. So instead of doing 4 to you every turn, the creature does 2 to you every turn. Gets you on a much bigger clock to find some more answers to it if you don't have an answer to it right away. So they're flyer if you're not playing a lot of flyers. I would gladly play a couple of Splendid Agonies. Really cool thing I noticed today looking at this card. Look at his hands and look behind his hands or his arms. He's making kind of the Nicol Bolas horn shape with his arms, and then behind him you can also see the horns. Meta. You think Nicol Bolas is on this plane, guys? You think he's there? Because they're talking about his return. So in the next set, he's going to return, but in this set, it's all the setup for his return. Stir the Sands. Love the art on this card, first of all. Very creepy horror art, like very black card art on this card. 4 generic mana and 2 black for a uncommon sorcery. It says create 3 2/2 black zombie creature tokens. Or you can cycle it for 3 generic mana and a black. You're like, well, why does that cost so much? Because you get a draw card from the cycling, and when you cycle Stir the Sands, create a 2/2 black zombie creature token as well. So if you're playing the zombie-centric deck and you got a couple of your zombie lords and this guy, you're just laughing because you just created 9 power for 6 mana. Okay. So Stir the Sands, I would again, like I said earlier for the Cruel Reality, I'm usually not happy when my curve toppers are not creatures, but I'm okay with this. Supernatural Stamina. It costs 1 black mana for a common instant that says until end of turn, target creature gets +2/+0 and gains when this creature dies, return it to the battlefield tapped under its owner's control. So this is might not look like it, but this is a black removal spell. So you play it on your 2, they're coming at you with their 5/4. You play this on your 2/3, they trade, but you get yours back. Right? Granted, it's tapped, but oh no, you traded, right? So this is a black removal spell. Even if you attack, you can attack with your little things into their big things, kill it, it comes back tapped anyway, right? This is a black removal spell. I would play a copy of this. This is the kind of thing I'd like to do. I kind of use these things as combat tricks, so if I need to sneak in that last 2 for damage, I can. If I really need to kill their big thing, but I don't have any of my just kill that spells, that's fine as well, because I have this guy, kills it as well. Trespasser's Curse is a generic mana and a black for a common enchantment or a curse. It says enchant player, don't enchant yourself. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under enchanted player's control, that player loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. So this is going to be really good if you're playing against a token opponent. Also something really good to do on turn 2. If I'm playing against, I would play 1 main because everybody's playing creatures. Everybody's playing 15 to 17 creatures in this format. So this is going to be pretty good, and there's not a ton of enchantment removal. There's some bounce in blue. There's like 1 card, maybe 2 in white, but for the most part, this is sticking around. So it's going to drain your opponent for probably 5 to 7 for 2 mana, which is pretty good, and gain you 5 to 7 if you play it on turn 2. If I'm playing against a really token-heavy deck that has a lot of Embalm or that has Oketra, I might sideboard in a second one of these even. That's how good I think, instead of like a mediocre creature, that's how good I think it could be for sure, especially if you get multiples on them. You can enchant the other player with multiples of these, and they stack. So they play a creature, they lose 2, you gain 2. Goodness. Yeah, Trespasser's Curse, I like it. I really like, if you guys haven't noticed, these kind of drain gain effects. I play some Aristocrats decks in Modern, I'm a fan. Trial of Ambition, Black Trial. Generic and a black for an uncommon enchantment. This Trial of Ambition enters the battlefield, target opponent sacrifices a creature. When a Cartouche enters the battlefield under your control, return the trial to its owner's hand. Edict effects sometimes aren't the best in Limited because there's a lot of creatures. So, you know, your opponent plays their bomb and gets a couple of zombies, or plays their bomb and gets a couple of warriors out. They're going to sack the little thing and not sack the bomb. But because you can bounce it, maybe you can get their bomb as well, right? That's the value of the trials, is their multiple uses. I do like this trial. I would play a copy, especially if I have a cartouche or 2 as well. So, Unburden is generic mana and 2 black, common sorcery. It says target player discards 2 cards, and it cycles for you to draw a card. This kind of thing I'm not super high on, even though it has cycling. I would rather pick see their hand, like we saw in the 1 card, like we saw earlier, lay bare the heart. Like, I would rather see their hand, pick a card with their hand and get rid of it, rather than them getting to discard a land and a mediocre creature. Like any discard spell, it's good if you catch their last 2 cards. If you catch their last 2 cards, you draw this turn 10, you're kind of, oh, okay. Whoop. You know, you're gonna cycle and draw a card. Yes, it replaces itself, but I feel like I'm gonna have much better stuff to do than play Unburden. Wander in Death is 2 generic mana and a black for a common sorcery. It says return up to 2 target cards from your graveyard to your hand, and it cycles for 2. Again, if you're playing a lot of Embalm cards, I could see playing this. These cards have always been kind of edge for me in Limited. Like, I've played cards like this, like Waltz the Macabre, where you return your creatures that have died and you get to play them again. because some cards have Embalm, you don't necessarily want to do that. Sometimes you want to play them out of your graveyard, but not everything does. So this could make the cut if I'm really lacking in removal or really good creatures. Like instead of playing a 17th kind of bad creature, I might play this instead, so I can get my good creatures back if they've died. So Wandering Death, like I said, has its situations, but definitely not playing it all the time. Wasteland Scorpion I'm playing all the time. It's generic mana and a black for a common scorpion creature. It has Death Touch, and it's a 2/2. I like how this, because in the past they've made this a 1/3, but they've realized how many -1/-1 counters are going to be floating around and made it a 2/2 instead. You know, so even if it gets a counter, because like we said with Baleful Ummet, you play that, you can toss counter on your Wasteland Scorpion, and it's going to live, and it's still going to kill something, right? And again, worst comes to worst, you're going to cycle it. Wasteland Scorpion, these black Death Touch creatures are always worth playing. I know there's a big stompy hexproof green creature that comes at you. Wasteland Scorpion kills it dead. Wasteland Scorpion was our last black card. We got those through those fairly quick, it seems like. If you can't tell, I'm pretty excited for black for this set, so hopefully you are as well. So what do you think, guys? Do you agree with me about these cards? Do you disagree? Either way, would love to hear hear your opinions in the comment section below. If you were watching this after your pre-release or after you drafted once or twice, how did you do? How did these cards do for you? Did they end up differently than I thought? Was I pretty close on some of them? Let me know. Also, give me a follow at twitch.tv/Dave865 or on Twitter at Dave2619. Also, like, share, subscribe to the channel if you're liking the videos. If you want to stick around for the rest of the review cards, that'd be or the rest of the card reviews, that'd be great. Would love to hear from you guys. Hopefully you have fun at your pre-releases, at your drafts, playing these cards. I know I will. I've had lots of fun. Hopefully you do, and have an awesome, awesome day, guys.